Hello and welcome to another edition of Swamy Says, only on NewsX. Welcome back, Dr. Swamy. It's been a pretty eventful week. We've had the farmers protesting against your government's farm bills that I think you had also supported. So I want to, get your take on whether the BJP is losing the Sikh vote. The connection between the BJP and the Sikh vote is something I'd like you to explain for us. Also, the economy, we've got the GDP figures for the second quarter. So I'd like your take on that. But before that, you've written a letter. Let's start with the breaking news. You've written a letter to the Prime Minister asking that the national anthem, as the version proposed by Subhash Chandra Bose, should be adopted instead of the current one of Rabindranath Tagore. What is the rationale behind this demand?
You see, this matter of the national anthem was discussed and debated in the Constituent Assembly thoroughly. And the overwhelming opinion was in favor of Vande Mataram. But there was some resistance, and to bring about unanimity, Jana Gana Mana was proposed as decided by, the poem was composed by Tagore, and the tune was then added later on. Now, the Constituent Assembly was not ready, so they couldn't put it to a vote. So what Ambedkar and Patel and Rajendra Prasad, the three principal figures of the Constituent Assembly, decided that they'll take it up as a last item. So on November 26th, when the Constituent Assembly had finalized the draft of the Constitution to be adopted, Rajendra Prasad made an extraordinary move. He said that, we have not been able to conclude the entire debate because the national anthem question has not been voted on. But may I suggest that that as a consensus, let us agree that Jana Gana Mana and Vande Mataram will be equal national anthems. And as far as Jana Gana Mana is concerned, some of the objections that the words are not relevant to the current Republic of India. For example, the mention of the word Sindh. Sindh is not part of the Republic of India. And we had accepted it. We accepted the partition resolution of the House of Commons of England. So therefore, it should not be there. Some objection like that. Then there was an objection, what is the Bhagya Vidata? Who are we talking about? Tagore has composed it in the late, the first decade of the 20th century. And a lot of time has elapsed, everything has changed. So therefore, the resolution that was unanimously agreed to, not voted, unanimously agreed to on the plea of Rajendra Prasad, the President of the Constituent Assembly, that the Jana Gana Mana and Vande Mataram will be the two national anthems. They can be alternatively played. There's no fixed rule which get precedence of the other. But Rajendra Prasad said that in future, if any of the words have to be amended, a parliament can do the needful, or it can be decided by a executive order. So therefore, national anthem was Jana Gana Mana was accepted, subject to provision that in future the words could be amended. Now, you see, Tagore, I don't know in what context he composed this poem, but he certainly, the 1911 Congress general body, the Congress meeting, which coincided with the coming of the British King. That meeting was also held in order to salute the visit of the British King. And those days, Congress was not the Purna Swaraj Congress of 1930 led by Mahatma Gandhi. There was no Mahatma Gandhi at that time. and he was perhaps in South Africa, I think. And the real fire that was given to our freedom movement was the INA, which scared the daylights out of the British when it was after World War II, when the British came to learn through Jawaharlal Nehru that Subhash Chandra Bose was still alive, and in Russia, because Russians, Stalin had sent Nehru a message, and this was there in the Khosla Commission, but Khosla Commission, out of consideration perhaps for Nehru, put it in the annexure without bringing it into the report. This is one of the unsolved mysteries of Subhash Bose. Subhash Bose, the INA with those Indian soldiers who were taken prisoners, the Japanese released them. They had taken them prisoners in various parts of their actions. The Japanese come all this way up to Burma. So they gave them all, released them all to Subhash Bose, who made them into the INA. And INA crossed into the Indian border and captured Manipur. And in Imphal, on 21st October 1943, Subhash Bose declared that India has become free, but in parts, and yahan se Delhi chalo. That is the slogan he gave, which fired everybody up. And then he had taken Tagore's Jana Gana Mana and modified the words and sang the same tune, but with modified words. Those modified words are much more relevant to independent India than Tagore's words. Not much difference, I would say a difference of 20%. And so, therefore, I think in honor of Subhash Chandra Bose, it is, I think, imperative that we connect with his struggle for freedom and make Jana Gana Mana identical to the one that Subhash Chandra Bose wanted. And I think there can be no objection that we are stealing some credit from Bengal. We are not moving out of Bengal. We are moving from Tagore to Subhash Bose. So I think the Prime Minister should, by 26th January, of course, Subhash Bose was born on 23rd January, I think. He should declare, perhaps on 23rd, that effective from January 26th, the words of Jana Gana Mana will be that which Subhash Bose helped to compose, and not the one that Tagore had proposed, but the tune will remain the same. I think this will fire up the youth. I've seen from my own Twitter reactions that the young people have responded much more ferociously and fiercely in favor than the older generation.
Why come up with this now? Is there any reason for you to, because everybody is looking always for why now, why
the issue is that I have been taking all these issues where the British had brainwashed us to think differently, and we have been sometimes submissive in the past. We are still members of the Commonwealth. I would like the Commonwealth, us to leave the Commonwealth, or say the Queen cannot be the chairman of the Commonwealth. It's disgusting after being free to go and sit, under the feet of the Queen of England or the monarch of England. And so, therefore, I'm trying to liberate the mind of the Indians, and I don't want them to become slaves of the past. So I'm coming up with all this. Why should I try to free temples? Why should I try and free, rescue Ram Setu? Why should I fight for Ram Mandir? These are all parts of the renaissance that India needs very badly.
Fair enough. And moving from one Delhi Chalo to another Delhi Chalo, we're also seeing the farmers now are moving towards Delhi in protesting against the bills that have been passed by our government. And initially, I remember you had supported the bills. What is your reaction? You still support the bills?
Yeah, I will make some amendments. But I said it that time, but I said it in the aside, so only that my support was given publicity, but I'll tell you what needs to be done. Well, First of all, there is you have asked about the Sikh vote being lost by BJP. I'm not concerned so much worried about BJP losing the Sikh vote. I'm more concerned about the fact that India must not lose the Sikhs, you see. And I'll come back to that issue in a minute. But let me say about this thing, it's a very welcome agricultural reform. But you must remember that agricultural reform is a part of the state. It's within the purview of the state according to the Constitution. And the act which we have passed through Parliament is an act which is permissible under the Constitution, since Parliament, both Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha, have voted together, and those states are also voted together. But there is a question which is where a misunderstanding has arisen, and that is that MSP, since it doesn't find any permanent place in the Act, therefore it means that we are going to get rid of it. Now in Punjab, where the markets are well established, and so is Haryana, and even Western UP, I'll tell you in this agitation, people from Western UP have also come. But it's not getting publicity. So where the markets, the mandis are well established, like these three states, I mean these areas, they have now worked out a principle by which the farmer goes only once to the mandi, and he finds a buyer. And if he doesn't get the right price because of excess production, the government intervenes and gives MSP. MSP could not be put in this act because it's already part of a model act. Model acts are those of the government which are stated as optional for states to implement. So in my opinion, this act now, as a compromise, we should say the act we have brought in is a model act. Let me tell you, the rest of India is not participating, will not participate unless they are thoroughly misled as to what Indian government is doing, like what was happened on CAA. CAA was absolute disinformation, as the Russians call a state lie. And it was all lies, you see. And
get back to the Farmers Act, why are the other states not participating? That's the other...
Because they don't have established mandis. Sometimes farmers have to go 3 times. How can they go take to mandi, bring back the same thing, then go again and not find a buyer? So they should be allowed not only one place to go where the MSP is available.
MSP is an executive administrative decision, so should be left for the states to implement.
That's right. Correct? Yes, that's right. There's no need for a law to put it in. And I would say, in fact, make this act also, the 3 acts as, the Essential Commodities Act is a separate one, but make the act on agriculture a model act, so that the states will have the right whether to accept or not to accept. And already Punjab is in revolt. They have passed in their assembly their own act. So therefore, I think we should not have provoked the farmers in this way. I think there's been very poor consultation. And that's one of the weaknesses of Narendra Modi's government. There's very little consultation. They could have asked me. I'm an economist. I would know immediately what needs to be done. Or they could have had, brought it in one of the a special meeting of party MPs. There are so many ways. You can't just go in and say, I am doing this, like Atmanirbhar. We are selling our banks to foreign banks, but we talk about Atmanirbhar. There's no structure. These are all statements, you see, and statements cannot be policy. And if you do that, then you have this problem. And I think we have further alienated the Sikh community, because there's a long history of the way we have misbehaved with the Sikhs. And I think we need to correct it. There's Operation Blue Star. The
I
most
wanted to ask you whether you have time to talk about that, because I, recall you did have a meeting with Bhindranwale also.
Not one meeting. I had 5 meetings, and one time I was his guest, and I spent a long time with him in Akal Takht, watching him. I heard his sermons. Once I did a fact-finding fact-finding mission for him in Firozpur, where the Nihangs had been killed by the CRP. So he wanted the whole, everybody was up on fire. So he wanted me to give a factual position. I came back and gave him, and then the matter cooled down. So
you're saying a lot of misinformation was being spread about him by Bhuta Singh and various Congress people.
Not misinformation, disinformation. Disinformation is deliberate telling of lies. Misinformation is that you are not very well informed. What happened is, in Parliament, several times, that time the Home Minister was Sethi from Madhya Pradesh. And he would get up and say that Khalistan passport office is now being established in Nanak Niwas in room number 32. And passports are being tamped now. Currency is also going to be applied. And it created a feeling that the whole country, the Punjab, was going to secede. So one day I decided, as a member of Parliament, I was a member of Lok Sabha those days. I said, let me go and see. In the meantime, by strange coincidence, sometimes these coincidences happen. One Sikh came from Punjab and said, Santji wants to meet you. I said, which Santji? He said, Bhindranwale. So I said, oh, okay, I'll come. I am also curious about him. So I went to Golden Temple, and right on top of one of the buildings, I think it was called Nanak Niwas, Bhindranwale was holding court there, a large number. So when I reached, he immediately, told the people, "Hamara sher aa gaya hai, Subramanian Swamy." Then he recited to them what I did in the emergency and so on.
That was the connect. Okay.
Yeah.
You disguise yourself as a Sikh.
Yeah, on top of that, not when I went to Parliament, but generally I was. So he praised me sky high. And then he said, how long? I said, I have to go back in the evening. I come to see room number 32. And I'm told, unless I speak to you, it can't be open. He said, no, abhi jao, ab dekh lo. So I went. And I knocked on room number 32, Nanak Niwas. And the one little boy opened it. And all there was in that room was one charpai and a stove for making tea.
Not a passport office.
Parliament, you please go and read the Parliament proceedings of that period, 1983, 84. Kept on saying, the Congress kept on saying that room number 32, Nanak Niwas, there is passport office and currency is being printed and so on and so forth. So the shock I got was when I returned in Delhi and got up in Parliament and mentioned this is all bogus. And of course, they stopped using room number 32. But I was in a reception met by the Russian ambassador. And he said, why are you supporting Bhindranwale? I said, what do you mean supporting? I went and met him. I want to know the facts. And the facts, I find a lot of lies are being spread. He said, no, he's now totally captured by the CIA. I said, how do you know? He says he's transmitting from Akal Takht, they are transmitting messages to the CIA and getting messages. What? How is it possible the government of India doesn't know? None of it has come out in Parliament. And it's impossible. One of the things I found about is that Bhindranwale used to meet press regularly. And one of those press people who became later an editor of one of the papers, which I think out of regard for you, I will not mention. I mean, you are also a press person or media person, wrote so many lies. So I went to 5 visits to the Golden Temple trying to persuade Bhindranwale to, frankly say that he doesn't believe in Khalistan. Because I asked him straight, do you want Khalistan? he said, मैं क्यों, he used to speak to me in Punjabi and I spoke to him in Hindi. So he said, why should I ask for Khalistan? बाकी लोग मुझे खालिस्तान दे रहे हैं, मैं क्यों मना करूं? So I said, it will be good if you say, I don't want it. He said, well, you tell those people not to offer to me. So I mean, that way. Then I heard his speeches in his sermons on, he was against drugs, he was against chedawing women. He was, he used to give only moral speeches. But in the public, there are women pregnant lying around in Golden Temple. You please don't read all that rubbish that used to be put out at that time. People are getting killed, bodies are lying there, this kind of thing. But he was 35 years, already become the most important leader. Most of the other Sikh leaders, particularly Harkishan Surjit, the communist, he was dead against him. And so the communists anyway were planning to take over Punjab. And the Russians had come to Afghanistan. So they had thought that, between Afghanistan and India lies Pakistan. So if we have to do anything with Pakistan, we have to first get a base in Punjab. So they went systematically. The Russians were full-time on this. So to conclude this matter, I was called by Gyani Jail Singh once, who didn't like Bhindewala because he had a problem with Darbara Singh, who was actually fanning all this Bhindewala as a terrorist. So he told me, "Tum BBG se baat karni chahiye." So I said, "BBG, call BBG." He said, "No, Indira Gandhi." So I said, "Kyun?" He said, "Nahi, wo kuch karne wali hai." This he told me about 2 weeks before Operation Blue Star. "Oh, karegi to bahut bura hoga." So I went and met Mrs. Gandhi and I said, you know the Sikh history, you know about Udham Singh and all that. They don't forget. If you enter this Golden Temple, they will retaliate. And they will prefer to die than just live on like accepting it. So she said, well, she told me that one of our members of her family was very keen. I won't name that person. But he said, no, a lot of pressure on me. I said, I know the Russian pressure is there. So he said, no, there's no Russian pressure on me. Of course, she has to say that. But I said, don't do it and you'll regret it. So afterwards, I went away and I had gone to Bangalore to attend a parliamentary meeting. And there was in Delhi, in Punjab, this Operation Blue Star took place. In August, Mrs. Gandhi met me on the corridors of Parliament. And she stopped me and said, "You were right. Now the Sikhs are after me. I know that." So I said, and asked me whether something could be done now. I said, now it's too much. The injury, I don't think anything can be done. Anyway, elections are coming. Let's see after the election. But she got assassinated. So, and then what happened to the Sikhs? I can't believe. I was eyewitness to this genocide that took place. Not one single person has still been, sentenced for that thing. It was clearly in the eyes of everybody who was watching, Congress-led. And this community, gave you Guru Tegh Bahadur, gave you Guru Gobind Singh. They broke the back of the Mughals. And they were, the British, in order to hide their bravery, used to call them 12 Baje, because at 12 o'clock midnight, every day, Guru Gobind Singh will send his troops to the camps where the Mughals were and rescue the women who had been kidnapped by the Mughal army. So therefore, since he was doing it every 12, so 12 Baje was only that. And I must thank our government. We have banned it. You can't say anymore 12 Baje to Sikhs. It's against the law. It's a part of the hate speech. So therefore, the Sikhs have to be won over. You can't push them around. And
that's the lesson even that is valid today also. I'm going to take a break, Dr. Swamy, and come back to you and continue this conversation.
Taking a community-based approach to conservation.
What is it that is causing fragmentation?
and how can you extrapolate all that in the future so that you can proactively solve problems as they happen.
The foundation setting the framework for conservation.
This is the economic infrastructure of the country, which will have the large companies, the medium sector, the small sectors, because this is an ecosystem which feeds on each other.
Working tirelessly for conservation in the eastern Himalayas.
We have to see that the northeast of India has rich indigenous skills and also rich natural resources, which had been resources over the years.
The Balipara Foundation presents Eastern Himalayan Naturenomics Forum, 1st December to 5th December 2020. Register now on ehnf2020.virtualmnc.com.
Hello and welcome back to a conversation with Dr. Swamy. Dr. Swamy, lots to talk about, but I quickly want to also get your take on the economy. We can, the Q2 figures are out. What is your reaction to those?
First of all, the agricultural agriculture has performed well, but it's got nothing to do with government or what stimulus, nothing. Nothing has been given to the agriculture, but rain was very good, and it's only Kharif crop. Okay, don't take this as the annual growth rate. Next quarter, when Rabi crop figures come, we don't know what is going to happen. Second, on industry, it's only for organized manufacturing. And MSMA is not in it at all, because you can't have data for MSA, because MSA data is always got by a sample survey. No sample survey has been conducted. Usually is done annually, and here the National Sample Survey has not been able to do its annual survey. So there is the industry growth rate that they mention, where they talk about green shoots and all that, that is only for manufacturing. And in organized manufacturing, what we have noticed, if you go deeper, which the government doesn't point out, is profits have definitely gone up, but the wages have come down, because what's happened is that in this corona virus pandemic, the organized manufacturing have streamlined their labor employment. They've sent, removed the FAFT, and which they couldn't do earlier because of trade unions and courts. Now they've removed them, so their costs have come down. And the wages have also come, because the wages have, the unemployment has, led to a lowering of wages. So this is not growth, that you have produced a thing because you've reduced the unemployment, the employment of your workers. This is not a healthy. Third thing is, where is the services data? Except for construction, which is, solid. All the others of what is they call as the hospitality center, there's no change. So, are the planes going full load, or they're going even half full load? No, not at all. So therefore, this whole thing, and then I'm afraid that from my projection, the next quarter, that is the third quarter, we're going to see as opposed to what we saw just now, whatever is this is what they call as the filling the gap. That has been done, and that has been shown to growth, but it's still negative. It's 8%, 9%, 7.5%, doesn't matter, but it's that, and that too on very selective data. I'm afraid the truth is that when the 2021 data for the annual year comes, we will be at least 15% down now, for the whole year. And to recover that 15%, you will have to grow and go back to your 7.5% growth rate. You will have to grow at 22.5% growth, which is impossible. So therefore, in the next 3 years, we will be recovering from what Corona did to us, because we don't have an effective plan. Even now, demand is a serious problem. Now, demand is a serious problem, but you are finding now inflation also taking place. If you look at the price indexes, they have gone up. Why? Because all the inventory that had accumulated by the industry is now being sold. For example, no new automobiles are being produced, but that which was lying in stock during this festival period, they got sold. So I think we need a reality check. And the spin ultimately is going to turn the whole country against the government. And I, being a part of the ruling party, I hate to see that. I'd like, because of our not only economics, but also of our social agenda of uniting the Hindus, I'd like our party to continue for some time so that India becomes an integrated society. But if this is the way the economy will take over in Bihar, we have got a lesson which we must take. You can't hide behind that you got a majority of 3. The single largest party is some little boy coming from just out of his diapers, so to speak, and he's come the single largest party, the son of Lalu Yadav. You see?
On that note, I think we're totally out of time, so I don't want to cut anything. But thank you so much, Dr. Swamy, for talking to us. That's a somber note, his predictions for the economy. I think he's been saying that for a long time, so no surprises there. But let's see what happens, and we'll ask him about his solutions maybe next time. Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.